So I want you guys' perspective. What's the story here? Is it black players, black NFL players, taking advantage of the HBCU African American connection to jump the line as a head coach? Or is it people looking outside the box to kind of take advantage of, some coaching resources that aren't being utilized out there? What is going on, everybody? It is Jake with Master of Football, back at it again. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things college football, pro football, Madden, EA college football, anything related to American football, hit that red subscribe button. You'll not be disappointed. Won't cost you anything. All it's going to cost you is being up to date on all of those things. Hit the like button too. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys. So I just had my Christmas out in Montana. It was negative 25 where I was, so I'm happy to be back into the balmy Boise at 40 degrees today. But I'm a little rusty, man. I feel a little rusty here. But there was something that came across the docket recently that I really want to talk about because it points to a bigger happening in football right now as a whole. Not necessarily just pro football, not necessarily just college football and things like that. It talks about, allegiance. It talks about swag. It also talks about coach trajectory because I think there's a couple of things that are kind of intersecting there that are really impacting a lot of coaching hires right now. Let's get to the article right now because I think this one is pretty adamant about all of those things. Let's go. Boom, ESPN.com. Hall of Famer Ed Reed to be head coach at Bethune Cookman. So very, very interesting. For those of you who don't know out there, it's going to explain it really quickly here because this has a lot of similarities to Deion to Jackson State. Ed Reed, a Super Bowl champion and 9-time Pro Bowl selection with the Baltimore Ravens, arguably also one of the best free safeties of all time, if not all time, has agreed to be the next football head coach at Bethune-Cookman, the university announced Tuesday. Reed, who was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2019, becomes the latest high-profile former athlete to coach in the HBCU ranks. Deion Sanders was at Jackson State from 2020 until he took the head job at Colorado earlier this month. Eddie George has been a head coach at Tennessee State since 2021. A historically black university located in Daytona Beach, Florida, Bethune-Cookman is an FCS program. It won 6 MEAC championships since 2000, but has struggled since joining the SWAC in 2021. Its previous coach, Terry Sims, was fired in late November after going 2-9 in back-to-back seasons. The Wildcat athletic director, Reggie Theus, the longtime NBA player and former Sacramento Kings coach. Theus is the Bethune-Cookman's head men's basketball coach. Bethune-Cookman's news release announced that Reed has entered an agreement in principle to be its 16th head football coach, was scant on the details. Reed, 44, has spent the last 3 seasons in a support staff role at his alma mater, Miami, most recently as a senior football advisor under football coach Mario Cristobal. We also saw an advisor for Jeff Saturday, advisor to the Colts. He went from advisor to head coach once Frank Reich was let go, and he's taken over kind of mid-season there. One of the only teams they've beaten was the Raiders. We don't talk about that. But anyways, we're talking about this here because it looks like a lot of times here, this is a big indication of whether or not people are trusting the normal apparatus when it comes to head coach, when it comes to trajectory and things like that. I want to go through the history of Ed Reed right now because you're able to see kind of where he came from. I also want to show you Deion. And I also want to show you other head coaches to kind of see what they have to kind of go through here. Let's go through Ed Reed. So Ed Reed right here, and you can even see when it changed the banner here to be the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats colors, head coach. He was born in St. Rose, Louisiana, went to Miami, and he is absolutely one of the best. You see here, Baltimore Ravens 2002 to 2012, and then Houston Texans, and then the New York Jets. Now remember here, as a coach, assistant defensive backs coach in 2016, and then took multiple years off. So that was 2016, and then 17, 18, 19. Just weren't involved in the coaching. And then 2020 to 2022, he was the chief of staff as an administrator with Miami. Now, again, Mario Cristobal is the head coach. He was there. Chief of staff, I'm not exactly 100% sure what that role entails. I anticipate it's something of a, kind of like a liaison between players and coaches, just to connect with people, make sure things are going all right. It gets a good pulse, has a good understanding of what's going on in recruiting and this and that. That's what I see him as in that role. Might be wrong. Anybody in the comments right now, get in the comments right now and let me know, correct me on whether or not that is true or not. And then you see he is now the Bethune-Cookman head coach 2023 and forward. I mean, he's got all the accolades in the world, 1 year of defensive back coaching history, and then 3 years of chief of staff history, instantly jumps to the front of the line as a head coach of Bethune-Cookman. Which reminds me of our dear friend Deion Sanders. Same situation here. Hall of Fame cornerback, does really well, works with Barstool, does with NFL Network, is a great analyst, decides, though, after his many, many years of career, that he decides to go to Prime Prep Academy, which, again, that was a point of scandal later on because there were some issues with some things. Anyways, you can go and check that out. That's not what this video is about. And then AAA Academy, I couldn't find out what that was. I'm looking at the dates here, though, and here's what I see. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and then he's gone. So if you think about that, I'm betting that AAA Academy, this is a complete guess here, is his son's junior high team. And then Trinity Christian High School was 2017, 18, 19, 20, 4 years. Goes to Jackson State 2020, 2021, 2022. He ultimately takes over there. I believe that coincides with our dear friend Shadir Sanders and his high school career. So he's 4 years head coach of his high school, and then he goes to Jackson State as the head coach, and now he's off to Colorado with his son with him. Now, I know that Shadir only has, well, technically he started in 2020, so he has a COVID year, a red shirt, and then 2 more years. He technically has 4 more years of eligibility. I am betting, though, he's going to be either 3 and done or 4 and done and go to the NFL. That's my perspective. Might be wrong there, but you see the fact that when you look at all this, a lot of playing experience, some coaching experience, mostly coaching his son, instantly gets the head coaching job at Jackson State. I think that's a definite difference between a lot of head coaches' experiences. And that brings us to this article here, because this article talks about Bomani Jones. Bomani Jones, a longtime analyst, ESPN, things like that. This is on Outkick.com. I'm going to include this link in the description here. It says Deion Sanders' response to Bomani Jones is he sold a dream comments. So Deion Sanders has given a response to Bomani Jones' criticism of him leaving behind Jackson State as a coach at University of Colorado. Jones made an appearance on CNN's morning show, CNN This Morning, earlier this month to talk about Sanders' departure. Jones said that Sanders taking the job in the Power 5 was a decision made for himself and not for his Jackson State players. He sold a dream and then walked out on a dream. People have the right to be critical of that. From Jones's perspective, and I think it's 100% fair, was he basically said that he kind of used the university. He used the university because had he gone through the normal trajectory as a head coach, he would have had to spend many, many years at many, many different spots before he was given a chance at Jackson State. Jackson State, he's black, he's got a lot of swag, he's in the South. He's like, dude, I can take over as head coach. Boom, he comes over and as head coach, completely jumps the line. So in a way, he used Jackson State because he completely jumped the line of the traditional trajectory of a head coach. And unfortunately, what Bomani Jones is missing is Jackson State also used him. Because he went 27-5, 27-6, something like. He had an insane record. Did 12-0 this last season. Actually, they did lose to North Carolina Central. They lose in their bowl game in overtime. I mean, they had a crazy, crazy bowl game right there. But you see the fact that he has definitely done what he can in that exchange. So that's an even exchange in my personal perspective. Deion doesn't necessarily have all the coaching, resume to justify being a head coach of a major college football program, even if it's an FCS program. So what he does is he utilizes the African American connection. He also utilizes the swag connection, and he comes in as Jackson State's head coach. Now, if he had gone 3-9, 4-8 or something like that, I'd be like, yeah, he definitely used them. However, you look what he got paid. You look what he gave back to university. You look how much that university was swagged out. You look how many games they had all over the place. Jackson State 100% got a good end of the deal, even with moving him ahead of to the front of the line just because of the connection there. So that's where we're at right here. I think we're going to see that with Ed Reed, because Ed Reed, 1 year assistant defensive back coach, chief of staff, not necessarily X's and O's and this and that. However, Hall of Fame defensive back. University of Miami credentials, okay? He's African American, can connect with those players in Florida, knows the region. There's a lot of good things about about Bethune-Cookman getting Ed Reed over as a head coach. I think I see what it is right there. Now, there are certain people, Bomani Jones included, who think that that is taking advantage of the African American connection, because Bethune-Cookman is like, well, let's just get Ed Reed. Let's get Ed Reed to see what happens. They got Eddie George over there. They got Deion Sanders over there. Let's just see what happens. I do think he's going to be able to connect with players and this and that. I anticipate Ed Reed will learn on the fly. been in the league a ton, Hall of Fame head coach. He knows what's going on. Whether or not he knows, he was a GA here or an offensive passing game coordinator there for long enough, I don't really care. But I do know it is definitely atypical. So you can see where the criticism kind of comes from. Because as an example, Sonny Dykes, the head coach at TCU this year, let's look at his trajectory before he got his first head football coach. So here we are on Sonny Dykes, the team that is in the playoff. They went 12-0 the regular season, lost in the conference championship game in overtime, and he is out here. So you check him out. He is 53 years old. Ed Reed was 44. So he started off as a J.J. Pierce High School in Texas running back coach, and then Navarro JC running back coach, and then Navarro JC passing game coordinator / quarterback coach, quarterback coach, and then 1997 graduate assistant / tight end coach, and then Northeast Louisiana wide receivers coach, and then Kentucky's special teams and receivers coach, and then Texas Tech receivers coach for 5 years, and then Texas Tech offensive coordinator and wide receiver coach for 2 years, and then we have Arizona offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for 3 years, and then Louisiana Tech head coach 2010. Started in 1994. First head coaching position, it was in 2010. That is, what is that? That is 16 years from first head coaching job, or at least just coaching job, up until his first head coaching job. So you saw Deion a couple years, mostly coaching his kid in high school. And then you see Ed Reed 1 year, takes over an FCS Pro Football program. He was an assistant defensive backs coach for the Buffalo Bills, and then, like I said, chief of staff. I don't necessarily think that was a football operations type role. It was more, I think, of a liaison. I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you see the difference between these types of roles here, especially the HBCUs. African American connection connects with the players. So I guarantee you, Ed Reed's going to be able to recruit. There's nobody that's going to be able to smooth talk a player and be able to connect with them and get them to commit to your program like Ed Reed, like Deion Sanders, like Eddie George. I'm telling you, I believe it is a good idea. But again, I can see where people are kind of seeing what's going on here with them moving ahead of the line just because of that connection. So I want you guys' perspective. What's the story here? Is it black players, black NFL players, taking advantage of the HBCU African-American connection to jump the line as a head coach? Or is it people looking outside the box to kind of take advantage of, some coaching resources that aren't being utilized out there? Because the traditional route, Ed Reed would have had to go into a GA at Western Kentucky, and then a passing game coordinator at Kentucky, and then he would have to go to Ohio, and then he would have to go to Arizona, and then he would have to go to this. I'm just using these as an example, because if you look at head coaching trees or just regular trees, it's very rare that somebody stays somewhere and works from GA all the way up to head coach. They typically have to move around a ton. These coaches, these Hall of Fame players, are like, you know what? I could do that and really, really start from the bottom, or I could utilize my connection with these universities, step to the front of the line, and do well there. Now, in Deion Sanders' case, they just won 12-0. Now, they lost their bowl game. I know that. But they were absolutely awesome. So, if Ed Reed hits it out of the park, I see no issues with the situation. In fact, I actually commend Bethune-Cookman for seeing the HBCU, prime time player connection, Deion Sanders, Jackson State, and trying to take advantage of that because it's worked in the past. It is a good perspective here. Do I think that Ed Reed is going to be the ultimate innovator on offense and defense? Maybe defense. Maybe he was a very instinctual player, really good at watching film. But I think more so for him, just like Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders is not going to recreate his speed in any of his players. That's not how speed works. But what he is going to do, a leader of men, a director of a team, and he making sure to hold people to a standard. I don't see any reason why Ed Reed can't do that. But remember, in time, we will see. What do you guys think is going to happen? Get in the comments right now and let me know. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys later. I am out.